There once was a man with 2 sons. He was a good father, and his household was well provided for. One day, the younger son approached him and made an unusual demand. He wanted his share of the family inheritance immediately. In essence, he was telling his father that he didn't want to wait until he passed away. He wanted his wealth now. Despite the sting of this request, the father agreed and divided his wealth, giving the younger son his portion. Without a word of thanks, the son packed his bags, left home, and set off to a distant land. There, he quickly squandered everything on wild living, making friends only as long as his money lasted. When his fortune was gone, so were his so-called friends. To make matters worse, a severe famine swept through the land. Desperate, hungry, and alone, he took the only job he could find, feeding pigs. For a young man who grew up in a respected household, tending to pigs was the lowest of lows. He was so hungry that he even considered eating the slop meant for the animals. At that moment, sitting in the mud, he had a realization. His father's servants were living far better than he was. They had food to spare, and here he was, starving. He thought, what am I doing here? I'll go back to my father and tell him, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm not worthy to be called your son. Just take me back as a servant. B. With that, he set off on the long journey home. All the way, he rehearsed his apology, fearing how his father would respond. What he didn't know was that his father had been waiting and watching every day since he left. As he approached his home, his father saw him from a long way off. Filled with love and compassion, the father ran to him, throwing his arms around his lost son and kissing him. Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you, the son began, trembling. I'm not worthy to be called your son. B. But the father interrupted him, shouting to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Prepare the fattened calf. We're going to have a feast. My son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now is found. B. As music and laughter filled the home, the elder son returned from the fields. Hearing the commotion, he asked a servant what was happening. Your brother has come home, the servant replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf to celebrate. B. The elder son was furious. He refused to go inside. When his father came out and pleaded with him to join the celebration, he said, All these years, I've worked for you and never disobeyed a single command. But you never threw a party for me. Now this son of yours comes back after wasting your money, and you celebrate him like a hero. B. Son, his father said softly, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate because your brother was dead and now is alive. He was lost and now is found. B. This story is not just about a wayward son or a forgiving father. It's about all of us. We've all made mistakes and wandered away at times. But like the father in the story, God waits for us with open arms, no matter how far we've strayed. And when we come back, he doesn't hold our past against us. Instead, he runs to meet us, ready to welcome us home. It's a story of grace, forgiveness, and the unconditional love that waits for every person willing to return.